My name is Pauline, and 14 years ago I went to India, and when I was there I noticed that a lot of the ministers of the churches had about 20 to 30 children to look after. And I said, why? And they said, well, in India if you have too many children they will take them to another town and abandon them. And so because in a lot of the Eastern religions there's no compassion, if you're an orphan or a cripple or something, it's because in your previous life you were wicked. Therefore it must be God's will, so I won't help you. Therefore the Christian pastors are stuck with all these children and they can't feed them and they can't educate them. So when I came back to Britain, to Bangor, I just prayed. I said, God, how can I make regular money? Because sending a one-off gift to Oxfam or something is no good. And he immediately said, open a charity shop. I said, no, you must be joking, I don't know anything about that. He said, just do it. So I presented that as a project to the church here in Bangor, and most of the kind of middle class type people were not interested. But I got a few people in the church who used to be alcoholics and drug addicts. They said, oh, we'll help you. I said, well, find me a shop. And it took them a couple of months. They roamed around Bangor and eventually found our original shop, which is opposite the job centre, which had previously fed dogs and cats, I think, and suddenly they were moving and we moved in, and that was 14 years ago. That was our first shop. We now have 20 shops. You know, my only aim was to make £500 a month for one orphanage. That was my only plan, but it's kind of expanded since then because I've travelled to more countries. So that's how it began. Right, well, as I say, initially we worked in India and we've got three orphanages there, 4 orphanages actually. Average about 50 children each, which we support. That means they're educated, they have medical expenses, food, everything, and we care for them until they go either leave school or college. And I go out and visit once a year, make sure the money's being spent properly. But then I got involved in Africa, particularly in Burundi, which is Central East Africa. I got involved because a friend was going there and he wanted his wife to go, and they were having a civil war, so it wasn't particularly safe, and she was a bit nervous. I said, oh, you'll love it. So she said, okay, come with me and we'll go. So we went to Burundi. That's 11, 12 years ago now, and the country is just absolutely gorgeous. It's like Wales, except it's warm. But otherwise it's mountainous, and all the farms, they're terrace farms, and as I say, I've been going there for 11 years now. It's right through the Civil War. Sometimes we had to fly up with the Red Cross, sometimes. But the areas we went to, very little development. All the schools have been destroyed. And so we built one primary school a few years ago out in the Rift Valley. But I've just come back actually a few days ago, and we've completed a proper primary school with 10 classrooms, absolutely magnificent. Cost us £40,000, which, you know, considering I only began £500, to go for a huge project like that was huge. But we just find God's faithful. As we go for it, he somehow helps us get the money. And so that will change that whole area. It's 30 miles off the main road up Tarzan country. It's near Bujumbura, so it will make a tremendous difference to that part. So that money is on top of our regular donations that we to other projects. Like we've got 2 orphanages in Burma, that's Myanmar, which supposed to be was a closed country, but you know, got in and built 2 lovely orphanages there, which we finance. We also partner. Well, actually, my daughter went to Romania. When we first began the charity shop, a guy visited us who was taking a trip around Eastern Europe. It was Bosnia, Serbia and all those countries. So she went on that trip, and when she got to Romania she met a woman who was feeding street children. This lady for 2 years had cooked dinner and gone to the railway station where the kids lived. Because in ex-communist countries they have huge pipes which heat the whole city. So you don't have individual central heating. And these kids, mostly gypsies, were actually sleeping under these pipes. And heard horrific stories about how the police would pour boiling water on them and all sorts of awful things. But they lived with these pipes, and the girls would have babies by these pipes. And my daughter and her husband and 3 kids actually went out there and helped for 5 years to rehabilitate these children, and so that they're now back with their families and so on. So that was marvellous, and that project is really it's completed now. But as I partner with a couple of another trust called African Child Trust, which is marvellous. A guy I know, he's a Nigerian, he told me that in Africa, when a man dies, his widow is left destitute because his family come and take everything, the furniture, the clothes, the pots and pans, leave her with the children. And so normally the first thing a widow does is take her children out of school, which means you're in a downward spiral to poverty. And so he came up with an idea that if the widow was given a little bit of money and we paid the school fees, the kids would complete their education. And so I'm the chairman of that trust, Africa Child Trust, and we work in 6 countries in Africa. Uganda, Tanzania, Zambia, Malawi, Burkina Faso and Nigeria. And that's been running 11 years, and we now have 27 children in university, training to be doctors and solicitors, so we see them right through. And through that, we sponsor nearly 1,000 children. So that's marvellous. Well, a year ago we took on a local project which is feeding the homeless through the church here, and his Orphans actually buys the food and pays the expenses of that. So they come in twice a week, and we've got like a soup kitchen or a drop-in centre, and the homeless get fed here, and Annie's finances that as well. So lots of other countries, Philippines, Nigeria. I mean, there's stuff going on all around the world now. Phenomenal.